Hi class, this is Liz Brown with Richland College. We are looking at the long-term liabilities chapters. Let's first touch briefly on installment notes. This is the table that you see in your book. What I want to focus on is a couple of key items. This is like a car loan. What you're going to do is you're going to have an amount that you start with. You're going to pay a cash amount, the same amount each period. In this case, it's monthly. And then at the end of the life, you're going to owe zero. So, for example, with a car, you pay $587.13 every month. At the end of the life, you owe zero. Once you pay that final payment, the car is yours. You owe nothing. All right, so that's what's shown here in this chart. So please see other resources on installment notes and let me know if you have any questions on the discussion boards. Now let's move on to bonds. These can be very tricky for students, and what I recommend is T accounts, staying organized, and making sure you understand the fundamentals of bonds before you start doing those larger problems. So let's see if we can help you out with a couple of helpful hints. With the stated rate, that is given in the problem and is used only to calculate the cash payments. I like to think of those as briefcases of cash. Also, this last one here, usually in our problems, we're using a 6-month payment period. So we are paying those briefcases of cash out every 6 months. So we're going to have to take our stated rate and divide it by 2 for 2 periods in the year. So 6 months plus 6 months equals 12 months, which is a year. The market rate is used to calculate the interest expense. It can be tricky to determine which rate you're going to use. Stated rate for the cash payments, and market rate is used for interest expense calculations. I also want to discuss discounts, face amounts, and premiums. For a discount, we have a market interest rate that is greater than our bond's stated interest rate. The stated interest rate on our bond, as we mentioned earlier, is the amount that we are willing to pay in our briefcases of cash or our cash payments. Let's do a simple example here. If we have a $100,000 bond and our stated interest rate is 7%, we are willing to pay $7,000, so 2 briefcases of cash of $3,500 to give us $7,000. If the market bonds with similar risk to ours are paying $8,000 or 2 $4,000 briefcases of cash over a year, which would an investor rather have? $8,000 over the year or $7,000? Clearly, they'd rather have the $8,000. So they are only going to pay us a discounted amount of approximately $93,000 for our bonds. Bonds issued at face amount are much easier than the discounts and premiums. Our stated interest rate is the same as our market interest rate. In this example, 7% and 7%. We are paying cash in briefcases of $7,000, whereas the market is also paying that same amount in cash. The marketplace is going to pay $100,000 for our bond. Premium is when our stated interest rate of 7%, so $7,000 in 2 briefcases of cash, versus a market interest rate of $6,000, which means, in this case, 2 briefcases of cash that equal $6,000. In this case, the market would rather receive our larger cash payments than the marketplace's $6,000 payments. So they are willing to pay a premium of $107,000. Let's take a look at this in chart form. I find this chart extremely helpful for understanding what we're doing with these bonds. What we're showing is the issue date and the maturity date. These are the 3 bonds that we talked about above. We have our premium of $107,000, our face value, which see this straight line, which is issued at $100,000, and our discount, which was issued at approximately $93,000. The goal of each of these bonds is the same. We're going to receive cash, and it varies in the beginning or in our issue date, depending on what we calculated above. And at the end of the life, at the maturity date, we're going to pay back $100,000, no matter which type it is. Premium bond, paying back the $100,000. Face value bond, paying back $100,000. Discounted bond, we're still going to pay back $100,000. Over the life of this premium, we are taking the $7,439 of premium and we are decreasing it all the way down to zero. The same thing is happening here. This amount of discount, which we have on the issue date, is shrinking and getting smaller and smaller until the maturity date. So this is our goal. Our goal is to take the premium to zero and the discount also to zero. One other thing I want to mention is that the amount of cash that we're making in the payments over the life of this bond is going to be the same no matter if we are in a premium, face value, or discount. The stated rate will be the same and those briefcases of cash will be identical. It is the market rate which is going to determine if the market is paying more or less than our bond. Let's move into an example.